It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name is Mike Royer.
And welcome to the official Superhero Slate review of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Oh my gosh, I saw the perfect meme for this, Chris,
Oh
this morning. If you can tell, if you're a frequent listener and have identified my voice like the AI chatbots you are, I am up earlier than I usually am to record the podcast, and so you're gonna wake up with me, you're gonna engage with me, you're gonna hear the neurons in my brain fire as we start to talk about this movie.
He is trying his hardest, folks. We've been working on his vocal warm-ups beforehand, so he sounds clear. And he's coming at us fresh. This is fresh waking up off this movie here.
Yes, but like my alarm went off, rolled out of bed, looked at a couple memes of Spider-Verse because now I can look at them on my phone. I've been avoiding them all weekend because I had to wait till Saturday to catch the movie. So there was a meme that said peak Spider-Man years, and I didn't realize that the first Spider-Verse came out the same year as that first PS4 version of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to identify that game because it's just called Spider-Man. I guess Insomniac.
Yeah,
Spider-Man
Insomniac Spider-Man is what I've seen. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
I always put Spider-Man PS4 and down right kind of thing.
And then in this year of 2023, we get another Spider-Verse movie with another Spider-Man game. So now I'm trying to remember, was there a Spider-Man film content when Miles Morales came out? I mean, it could have been a Tom Holland movie. I don't know. I wasn't.
Like you talking about originally when he was originally created?
Yeah. So
no, it was still well before that. He was, I would say, even pre Andrew Garfield, a little bit. So nobody knew the implications of Miles back then in the Ultimate Universe. But
and just the spider explosion. Just in general, like obviously you can tell by this movie, obviously heads up, we're going to talk spoiler free just for a couple minutes, then we'll flash the alarms, sound the bullhorns when we get into spoilers, but we know that there's tons of cameos in this movie from the trailer of Spider-Verse, right? And then you start to see, like I was saying, the other media, like the video games, the other movies out there, the TV shows that are on like Disney Plus. Like Spider-Man has just like so far exploded past the likes of, I would say, Superman and Batman for like recognizability and saturation.
Well, the other part of that is, I would say, it's the age range, right? Like Spider-Man permeates younger children much easier than Batman and Superman do, really, at the end of the day, because there's Spidey and His Amazing Friends, right? I think it's on Disney Plus or whatever it's called right now. Friend of the show, Patrick, his son knows like 3 things, and Spider-Man was like one of them, like Spider-Man, Big Bird, and something else. He'll tell me what it was, but like
he knows how to say mom, he knows what a ball is, and he knows what Spider-Man.
Yeah. So I mean, I can't fault him for that, but like, yeah, Spider-Man permeates literally every age. It's universal. Across and as we've seen from this movie and seen the trailers, there's a variant for everybody out there, really, at this rate. So,
it's just pretty nuts. It's pretty crazy. And this will be the only time. You were talking about teenagers there for a minute there. This is the only time I'm ever going to give credit to a group of teenagers, because when I saw the movie last night, I had my seats picked out, ready to go. I get into the theater, and then lo and behold, I'm sharing a row with like 15 teenage boys out on a Saturday night, and I'm like, oh God, this is I'm done for. The movie experience has been ruined. Like, they're kind of being a little rowdy just before the trailers start going. I'm like, I'm screwed. The movie experience is gonna be tanked, and you know what? I'll give it up to them. They were silenced the second that the movie started. They were good movie goers, so I just want to give credit where credit is due. I prejudged, but I mean, I think it's fair to prejudge teenagers. They're almost always awful. I used to be one. I was annoying at movie theaters too.
They can cover the whole spectrum in a matter of seconds. So, yes.
But
absolutely,
it also helps. The movie is about a 15-year-old teenagers in some aspect a couple years older or younger. So it was their demographic. They were sucked into the movie. I didn't have to worry about them.
That's
right.
It was great. They know the 15-year-old boys know Cars, girls, and Spider-Man. Those are the only 3 things they know, Mike. So
you're saying I would be safe with the same row of boys at Fast 10 is what you're trying to get. Okay.
I don't know. that movie attracts a certain audience, if you will. Yeah. So you got to see it yesterday. You're fresh. I saw it Thursday. Thank God, no spoilers. I am disappointed in the lack of popcorn vessels. At the theater.
So this is funny because Chris and I have started to wonder if we should bolt on a segment either to the weekly news podcast or to our reviews where we start talking about the unique popcorn buckets that envelop these big film releases. And I don't usually go to AMC theaters, but and I did not get a unique popcorn bucket, but they had spider heads.
Yeah, I was gonna say
buckets at AMC.
AMC will always be the higher end when they have the most variation, but they are the ones that had spider heads for both Miles and Gwen, if you will. And then the Cinemark where I was, they only have just a regular bucket adorned in Across the Spider-Verse art, right? Like one of those plastic buckets. I know it was a little sad, but this is neat here, but they had a Transformers popcorn bucket there, which was Optimus Prime's head. I'm like, these are like the lowest bottom of the barrel things you can do. Just turn the head of the main character into something you're eating out of, kind of thing. So,
I mean, we know from the trailer of this film that there is a character called the Spot. I think that would be a perfect vessel where you just put a black void at the top of like some sort of like blob, and you're just pulling popcorn out of it from another dimension.
That's right. In the trailer, it shows bread falling through him. So absolutely, he's definitely edible. But I think there was some opportunity to go here, but we don't want to oversaturate the popcorn bucket market with things. But that's neither here nor there. But if not, Mike, let's talk box office real fast before we jump into review, because I think this is going to say a lot about people listening to this review and hopefully everything else, because it is currently sitting at $120.5 million opening weekend, which is 3 times the original movie and the 3rd highest Spider-Man movie ever, Mike.
This is exactly what I was hoping for. I mean, the last movie was great. It had word of mouth. I was surprised. I looked up the box office for the first film. I just hadn't checked back in on it once, I saw it and loved it, right? So I don't need the box office to prove anything. But it ended up making I think 360 million worldwide. So not a bad number for an animated movie for sure. So I was really happy to see that this one was really knocking it out of the park. Just because whether or not the movie was going to be good or not, this proves that the first movie did the legwork and got people excited about this animated franchise.
And this had 4.5 years to get there, right? This is one of those movies. Again, adults. I've been trying to hype people up at the office. I'm like, you should go see this. You should watch Into the Spider-Verse. And they're like, well, I don't really dig on cartoons. I'm like, yeah, but this is not your average cartoon movie. This is it. So some people did bring up a good point. The first movie made them visually nauseous because of everything kind of going on, and I'm like, I guess if you're not expecting that kind of thing, I could get that. So, but we'll jump into what this will look like in a little bit. Also, this movie is the 2nd biggest preview night for an animated movie, only behind Incredibles 2, which was several years ago. So, people were going Thursday nights, Mike. People were getting in there. Our theater was full. Ages, all sorts of ages, and very diverse audience, and that was pretty excited.
Yeah, we were driving to the theater last night, and we looked in the lane next to us, and there was an Uber, and the person in the backseat of the Uber just full on wearing a Spider-Man mask, like a normal street clothes, but the Spider-Man mask. So it's just I don't know if the Uber driver is going to appreciate a masked person in their backseat, even if they know the final destination is the movie theater. Yeah. But yeah, people were into it. I saw some people in full costume in the theater, which I'd say is pretty impressive still for a Saturday. You think most of that energy comes to a Thursday night showing, but yeah, people are energized.
Yeah. And Spider-Man, easy easy outfit, right? Just put on the mask and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Peter B. Parker from the first movie? He was just average sized man wearing a mask.
It's even easier now for that costume.
Yeah.
It's primarily robe based now.
Yeah, that is very true. And then I just want to go ahead and put this out there. A lot of people stayed around in the theaters that I was in as we were leaving, but there is no post credit scene actually in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
We talked in theory last week, I think, about obviously they're going to have a post credit scene. The next movie's in March. No, we were wrong. Way off on that regard. So that's a unique moment in superhero cinema right here.
Yeah, I mean, unsurprisingly, this, of course, this is not really spoilers. It's more just like a heads up if you're going to check out once we start talking. But they do have beautifully designed credits.
Yeah.
Like almost all movies do that are worth watching. And then there's kind of like a little visual stinger, I would say, at the end of it, but then just normal credits.
Yeah, it really just reminds you that Beyond the Spider-Verse is coming, and that's really about it. Like nothing additional to that, but we did state that. We did see that little stinger, so for that. But without further ado, Mike, let's just jump into this. We've got a normal news episode, and we want to talk about this. We haven't talked about it because you're relatively fresh, right? You're less than 24 hours off of this. So let's go ahead and jump into this, Mike. I will tell everyone spoiler going forward. If you not yet. No spoilers. Spoilers are later. I was looking at my notes wrong. No spoilers, but go ahead, Mike. I'm going to let you have the honors this week.
I mean, if you're a regular listener to the show, you obviously know I love this movie. This movie's great. This movie's awesome. It's going to be fun to talk about it in the spoilers because there's so many fun cameos. It's a visual delight. I didn't think you could punch up the style of the film more than the first one, but they found a way. Going to other dimensions, or not really going to other dimensions so much as bringing other characters from other dimensions in, and their art styles it's just eye candy what it feels like, and then cameo candy, and then there's just so much to look at. This movie would really benefit from multiple rewatchings. It has just as much heart and emotional heartstrings as the first film does, and I just had a great time. It's just awesome. It's so cool. I love the way the movie is structured narratively as well. It almost doesn't seem to have like a 3-act structure. It kind of has like a 4-act going on, so you almost get like episodic takes. Like I feel like you could chop this up into like a 4-part series or something and watch it on like a premium streaming show or something like that. And I think that's awesome because it's just so good. Chris, this movie's so good. I would be surprised if you don't like the movie. I hardly ever try to guess what you're going to say live on the podcast when we're talking about it, but I would be shocked if you didn't like it. And if you don't like it, we're going to have a fun time where we just argue for like the next hour. It'll be hilarious. I mean, there's some like nitpicks I have for sure. And maybe I think one probably solid criticism that whenever you get a movie that's like a part 1, you feel like you're not getting quite a full narrative, but there are definitely characters in this movie that do go through full arcs, so you could kind of say that is kind of your emotional conclusion at the end. But this movie's great. It's a fun time. It's a ride. Even if you're from another planet, have no idea what Spider-Man is, your eyes are going to have a great time watching this film. Everyone in my theater loved it. We applauded at all of the great parts of the film. Great time. Awesome movie. I can't wait to talk about it more. Chris, what did you think about it?
Well, I might be from another dimension, Mike, another universe feel, because I didn't hate it. I'm just kidding.
I thought about doing the same shtick.
I know.
I was like, maybe I'll come on the podcast and I'll act like I hated it.
No, it's a fantastic. It's fun. It's exciting. It's refreshing. In terms of film, if you will. Like, we just came off Guardians 3, right? That was our last review movie. Fantastic movie. Great, refreshing, emotional, great story with the characters we know and love. I would say we come back again with, Miles and Gwen, and we get a return to an emotional story with characters we know and we love, right? From the first movie. So, we are very, very lucky to have a lot of, energy and passion and thought put into the story of this. But I will agree with you, it is not a standard it might be 3 acts, but the third act is probably almost like half the movie. It feels like sometimes in this, because it's a very long film, right? 2 hours and some odd minutes. You don't normally get something animated this long. You can kind of feel it, but what I really enjoy here is, to me, that, like you mentioned, they're much like a spider web. There are multiple threads going on at the same time, right? I would say we have elevated Gwen into a main character. She's probably the main character of this, alongside Miles in his own right? So they each have their own story. They each have their own journeys in this, and I would say what felt like almost the same amount of screen time for some of this. So I really enjoyed that. It does, go some places that I was like, well, obviously we know another one's coming in less than a year. How are they going to wrap this up? Will they wrap this up today? And the answer was simply no. We are going to get the third part, and I could feel the third movie being just as long as this, right? Like, I feel, and we always talk about this in animated properties, they did movie 1 and 2 together, right? And they animated a lot of it, so they know where the next part is. But it ends on a really, interesting note, to make you want to come back and see the next one, because it's not like again, a similar movie, Dune, which is very much 2 parts, and the first part is very much just part 1. It ends on a very kind of like anticlimactic. This one gives you a lot of exclamation marks, if you will, when you're writing the sentences about where it ends and how it's going to go.
Yeah. Not quite as like intense as the ending of Infinity War was, because that was a unique in the way that one faded to white and then left us all in shackles. But yes, I would say more in lines of like, I'm happy. I'm still happy.
Yeah, exactly. And there's enough meat in here to get behind it, and there are, again, as Mike mentioned, as everyone's mentioned, since the first or probably the second trailer came out, there are so many Spider-Man variants and sub-characters across this entire movie. It's almost like that whole time where the Leonardo DiCaprio meme, right? Like, oh, there he is. I know that. And we've even linked in our spoiler section a list of 56 Spider-Man variants that people were able to pull out of the movie. So we'll talk more about that later. I see the animation styles for each universe didn't feel as maybe unique as the first one, right? Some of it was very similar, but that doesn't make it any less visually beautiful of a film. I would say the first teaser trailer where Spider-Man 29 is hunting Miles, that scene never showed up in this movie, right? With like the half drawn backgrounds. I'm like, oh, this looks like maybe like a storyboard or test art for this, so I'm really sad that didn't show up, but there was enough there to make up for that wholeheartedly. I will also applaud this in interesting note, Mike. This is probably the most diverse lead cast of a movie of this nature in a long time, right? Like your lead, it is a Spider-Man movie. There's Spider-Mans for every version, out there, for every ethnicity and every culture, and literally the only, I guess the main white guy Spider-Man is like there for just a little bit, really, and that's Peter B. Parker again, right? Everybody else, they really were able to incorporate all sorts of diversity in this cast, and I think that's even better, right? And there's something I didn't really think about till afterwards, because you don't feel, because you're so enthralled, but that adds variety to the characters and how they work and how they talk. And just overall, really fun time in this movie. Like I said, nothing. It's not a perfect movie. There will be, again, as Mike mentioned, nitpicks, if you will. But like, you really gotta get the magnifying glass out to find them. And I would just say my biggest complaint is the soundtrack's not as strong as the first movie was. That the Sunflower song from Post Malone in the first one's so catchy and stands out, but this one really didn't have one at the end.
Yeah, I feel like that is almost like a movie trope in and of itself, where I feel like a first film of its franchise, like, right, comes out with like a banger song or a really catchy one. And then all of a sudden, all of the executives and producers and people in charge of every other part of the movie that's not making the movie, they start to go, oh, we need another one for the next one. And I feel like they almost overthink it, right? They're trying to like analyze what the next big hit is, and it's just like, no, you don't analyze it. It just has to come to be. So yeah, we didn't quite get that this time, but if you look past the soundtrack, I think the score was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and I think I want to use the score, I think maybe to transition into spoilers, so maybe we do that now.
Yeah, so I guess overall full stop here, we both recommend this movie. Go see it. I'm going to add one caveat, though, before we get to spoilers, Mike.
Sure.
Although this is an animated movie, I would not say children under 5 would enjoy this. It is long, and this is a very adult themed in this movie. Like they are, these are not. This isn't there's a nice animated scene, like colors and all the Spider-Man, like maybe 3/4 of the way through, if you will. But overall, the story, the themes, the elements this touches on, like kids 5 and under are going to check out real fast. Unless they like the bright colors, because of everything else is very adult themed and heavy-handed. Not heavy-handed, but like is heavier than the first one was, right? It's about a goofy kid learning to cope with his Spider-Man powers, and this one's more about like that responsibility, like, you know, for lack of a better phrase, in Spider-Man's world, you know, with great responsibility, with great power comes great responsibility. So yeah,
Chris, I think you just need to let these 5-year-olds spread their wings, man.
Yeah,
you just gotta trust them. We gotta let them go. They can do it.
Exactly. But I mean, that would be my only thing overall, like a caveat. Hey, your kids may not enjoy this as much as, you know, you think they would for an animated movie, because the Spider-Man chasing scene is not the whole movie, right? At the end of the day, so. Yes. So anyway, full spoiler alert going forward. We are here to talk about things in this movie, especially Mike's scoring, or Mike, or the score, whatever he was talking about.
I was purely going to use the score to transition to, I think, maybe one of the gems of this movie, which is Oscar Isaac's Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099. I love that kind of musical sting whenever he just like Kool-Aid Man's through a wall and he starts chasing, and they add in that like.
So that is from the first movie. I don't know if you remember this, because I watched it this week to kind of get myself ready.
Is it in the post-credit scene of it?
Well, no, it's whenever they're dealing with the multiverse collider. So anytime you hear the multiverse collider, you hear that theme of or the Prowler chasing him around. So it's kind of like a menacing, not quite evil, but very like this is a threat sound throughout the first movie.
And it is wonderful. It like, and they pair it well with his character. I mean, speaking of memes, so many glow up memes for this character compared to his post credit scene. He seems to be juicing in this movie. I'm not super familiar if that is a Spider-Man 2099 trait, or if maybe if that's something he's doing on his own. We don't get a full explanation of it, but like now that I think about it, this is the first time I've thought about it since I saw it in the movie. I wonder if maybe this is kind of like unintended consequences of his work, you know, when he's going into these other dimensions or something, and I don't know, he's like taking genetic material from other Spider-Men and like, you know, amping himself up. I don't know.
Well, so when he was created, he was like a geneticist in the future, right? And like he had like a similar accident, like he was trying to recreate the powers of Spider-Man in the future, where Peter Parker no longer exists. However, because I have a couple of these issues, actually, the original 29 issues, he has to rewrite his genetic code with a spider. So that makes like, they talk about the vampiric portion that we never see in the movie, but we hear, like that's like his spider bite, if you will. So he's like, I guess maybe I wouldn't say part spider, but he has spider DNA from his universe, if you will. So,
gotcha. Yeah. I mean, he was just a great character. I mean, come on, between Oscar Isaac, Pedro Pascal, Diego Luna, like these men are like slowly starting to take over in a great way. Like these nerdy franchises, like this. I want to see them like trio up on like an Entertainment Weekly cover or like a Variety cover or something like that. They are just knocking it out of the park. It's so great. And like the whole cast is great. You know, we get to see a big group of the cast returning, and there is a little voice sting flashback of Spider-Ham during like a later montage in the film. But I was happy to see at the very end, you know, when Gwen gets her band back together, you know, we do get to see Spider-Noir and Spider-Ham. So I hope they get Nick Cage back. I think John Mulaney is probably the easier get, just because Nick Cage is so mysterious.
I think he did. Again, like I said, I rewatched Into the Spider-Verse this week, and he was just eating that role up, man, when he was doing that first one. Absolutely. But I think it was fun. So I was thinking about this when I was watching the first movie and this one. Miles and Gwen, every universe has a different animation style, right? You mentioned Spider-Ham, Spider-Man Noir, Penny Parker with the spider. But Gwen and Miles are like the same art style, right? Which is
roughly.
So, but I absolutely like fell in love with her world being watercolors, right? And they're very like emotional. Like when everything's really emotional in her universe, it was all watercolors taking over the scenes.
And like the water would start to like bleed down the walls and stuff. Yeah, and the art style too. Yeah, that's something everyone gets a keener eye for in this movie, since we kind of have more sample sizes, more data sets, right? Of even when we get to see, I mean, we're talking about spoilers, so I'll bring it up. When we get to see Miles number 2, he has a more outline style, where Miles' universe is really defined more by that halftone chromatic abbreviation. So like even things that are supposed to be very similar, they are distinctly defining them a little bit.
Yeah, like even the characters, like, so like I would also say the Spider-Man India, right? Who was voiced by the guy who Dopinder, who drives a taxi in Deadpool, by the way. I heard him right. I'm like, I love that guy. But like the people were the same art style as Miles and Gwen, but that world of Mumbai and Manhattan mixed together, right? This big, very busy city. Absolutely wonderful. Like jam-packed with details. The banter in that one as well, really good. Like when he's like, hey, here's the traffic, and over there's also the traffic. And
chai means tea. You don't have to say, and which is great because Miles was talking about the ATM machine earlier.
The ATM machine. It's like an ATM machine. But yeah, so absolutely, like I think some of the characters are very similar in terms of art style, but some had their distinct look, right? Like 2099 is one of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've been talking about all of the great things this movie. Like, I think you and me both, that's probably like our first nitpick that we share, is we do get this huge cast of Easter eggs that are hilarious, that do seem to be like they were assigned to the B team while the A team was making all of like the hero shots and everything. And they were just like, should we give them a unique art style? Like, we don't have time for that. Do you see everything we have to cram in this movie? Just render them at whatever default setting we have and get them out the door.
We're making concessions here. I would say, again, another character who's not really seen in the trailers, Hobie, Spider-Punk. I did not expect him to be literally newspaper cutout artwork the whole time. Or magazine cutouts. That was he's normally not. He's normally just in a red suit with the spikes down his head. So that was really fun to see him literally as he moved and talked. The cutouts would change, right? The magazine print would change across his character model, and he was fun. I love the anarchist part of him. Like that was he really stood out as a fun time.
Yeah, he was just like, I'm holding on to this organization by a thread. I will leave the second one more thing happens.
And then he did.
Like, I'm out.
Yeah, he's like, I quit. So there are, again, standout characters who had standout situations and unique things. But I would say some of them are a little samey at the end of the day. I would also say, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the Spot. He had like his own little story, like along the way as well, right? Like he was kind of doing his thing, and they were like, cut to him every once in a while doing his own little story.
Oh my God, he was the bagel guy. If no one remembers this, it was kind of called out, I want to say, like maybe after the first film hit home release, right? And people could kind of dive into the film a little bit more. But the iconic scene when Miles and Peter are escaping the science lab through the forest, just before they jump off of like the outdoor balcony into the woods, Miles chucks a bagel, and when it hits somebody in the head, there's a little text pop up that says bagel. It's hilarious. It's that guy. It's so funny. Like, that's not his origin story. He's not a villain because he got hit by a bagel. He was a villain because he was in the collider when it exploded, and he became the Spot, which is a great origin story. Like, I thought, like everyone else was saying, he was just being set up as like a villain of the week type of goofy weirdo. But no, he's Jason Schwartzman's the Spot is like the villain of this franchise.
And when you say bagel, it literally is like everything everywhere all at once. The
Yeah.
Everything bagel. He is the everything bagel person, right? Like he can do, he can touch any universe now at the end of this movie and do everything. So his color inverts. So instead of white with spots, he's black with white squiggles. And I loved his hand drawn look, like the squiggles, everything on him, like looked like someone literally just animated it with a pencil the whole time because of how, scratchy and stuff it was. So I really appreciated that detail to a character that could have just been covered in black spots and looked like literally a Dalmatian. So
and like not. I mean, obviously he turns, inverts his colors by the end of the movie. But even the part from where he gets his butt kicked at the beginning to when he starts to learn his spot skills more. Think of like the Indian Spider-Man scene, right? His spots start to become like more defined. Like it's not just kind of like one big splotch. They're kind of like moving around and stuff like that. So it's just great visual design, as everything is in this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. So in everything, visually, it's just superb. Like I need a second rewatch, maybe even at home, to like pull out some of the stuff in there, which was cool. But not only animation, Mike. I want to just go ahead and get this out of the way. The live action cameos.
Oh my gosh!
Because there are, again, if you want to know, yes, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield both make cameos, but it's footage from their previous movies, right?
Yes.
So we get to see, the first one, Uncle Ben from the first movie. We get to see Tobey Maguire with Captain Stacy from the first Amazing Spider-Man movie as well. With that, but the one that got the biggest reaction on me, and I told Mike this before the show, we didn't talk about what we thought of the movie, but my wife turned to me and she was like, "You gasped out loud at the theater at this moment. Is this special?" I'm like, "Yes," and it is Donald Glover playing a live action version of the Prowler, which was teased at in Spider-Man Homecoming, and they gave him the full suit, and he's in one of those little boxes to be sent back to whatever universe he came from. So I'm really hoping, is he gonna be in the MCU? Because a scooper did say that the MCU will address this movie at the end of the day. So
yeah, I mean, I would like to use this as an opportunity just to tell everyone to just be cautious, in a sense of like, this is still a Sony produced movie, right? And this is still, at the end of the day, I'm considering it just a Spider-Verse universe, right? I know they brought in all of this live action footage to tie in all the other Spider-Man, right? But I'm not holding my hopes up that this is going to be fully, perfectly integrated into the MCU. Even though that they're bringing these very similar multiverse ideas together, right?
And they even name dropped the MCU. Doesn't mean that it's reciprocal, right? They talk about Spider-Man and Doctor Strange in their universe number, which is technically the number they gave them years ago. So that was good, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you gotta suspend your belief a little bit when you're watching this movie, because not everything exactly lines up right. Like we were talking about, different art styles for the different characters being recognized by the other characters, right? They see Vulture at the beginning of this movie, and they say like, "Oh, you look like a paper cutout. You look like you're from like some sort of Leonardo da Vinci universe, right?" If you take that to the extreme, you would just be like, why does Miles's mom from Earth 42 not recognize that her son has like halftones all over his face, right? So it's kind of one of those things that's just like, you just enjoy the movie that you're watching. I just, that's what I worry about. I can already start to see people online start to theorize of like, oh, well, how come when you multiverse travel in the Spider-Verse and you're in a universe you're not supposed to be, you start glitching out, but when Doctor Strange travels to other universes, or when it happens in the MCU, nobody's glitching. Like, I don't get it. And like,
well, that's because that's Spider-Man multiverse, not Doctor Strange multiverse. That's I did see a unique explanation, which could be true, that like, oh, maybe when you travel the multiverse via like magic, it's more stable, and since they're doing it through technology, it's more unstable. That could be it, but in my opinion, it just doesn't even matter. Like, these are two movies that were made from, it's like evolutionarily, right? When you see two like creatures evolve and the branches start to get close together, but they're still technically from a totally different branch. I'd even drop the movies out of this, because the comic books have done this for years, and they there's a Spider-Verse comic book, and then there's also Universal hopping comic books, right? Like, so it's just the nature of the Spider-Verse thing, and it's a plot point, right? They give him the guest band, and they help him get around. So my question is, will he glitch out in Universe 42? right? Is he going to do that in?
Yeah, if you don't remember, he did a couple of times when he was following Uncle Aaron up to the.
Yeah, gotcha. You're right. So
roof,
is that gonna be against him? But I noticed early on that they were sitting in Earth 42, and I don't think anybody else in the theater did.
I did too, Chris.
Because everyone gasped at the end, and I was like, "Oh, you weren't looking at the number."
Yeah, that's why we're nerds.
Yeah.
Well, I can't give myself full credit because I forgot what universe he was from. So when the computer showed that he was going to 42, I was like, "That's not his number, right? I don't remember that being his number."
Is the number he's from? Yeah.
But I think this is a good opportunity to talk about the origins of Miles now. I thought this was really clever, and I would not be surprised if this was never the original idea in the first Spider-Verse movie. But if it wasn't, they did a great job pivoting. I love this idea that he was bit from a spider from another universe because it makes him wholly unique to all of these other all these other spider characters. So like I like that. You want your main character to have something a little bit different going on. So, and also it's great because he's basically stolen this job and responsibility from another character who ends up like turning evil, like evil Bart Simpson from that Treehouse of Horrors episode, where he becomes the Prowler in his universe. And one little thing that I really liked about that, they build up this idea that maybe his Spanish is waning through the movie, right? It gets his mom really, really mad. But when we get to meet the other Miles and he takes his helmet off and starts talking, it seems like Spanish. It's even like in his English accent when he's talking. So it's just like, oh, this is like just, you can tell this is just a totally different branch of what could have happened.
Yeah, and it's again a world without Spider-Man too, right? So it looked like there's no heroes. Like there's fire and I wouldn't say destruction, but like it's a very much like, hey, if the criminals rule, like this is Gotham. Really, like if I could liken it to Batman, like everything is evil here, but like it's very much. I think that's a great note to end on, right? Like Miles versus Miles is a solid beat to end on because I want to see how he gets out of it and what that looks like. But at the same time, I'm like, oh man, they left it showing him charging his electricity. So I'm like, I want to know, like, I wish they wouldn't have done that, right? Like, I'm like, oh, what's the next scene? And then there's not one. So I would say my nitpick is don't show the electricity of him like trying to get out. Like, should have just left it at the reveal. Kind of thing.
Yeah, unless it's like a red herring that we think he's gonna escape those chains the second the movie starts, but then all of a sudden there's a twist or they start like talking or something like that. Because I mean, if I was evil Miles Prowler, I wouldn't just kill somebody that looks exactly like me the second I see them. I think I would.
Miles Prowler is from Sonic. This is Miles Morales. So
but this is another good point to bring up where, people shouldn't start mixing these Sony and MCU too much in their head, because we have yet to come across really any other type of superhero. Like we've seen other supervillains, right? Because that's what Spider-Man needs. So if we were to fully integrate this, or we to assume that only a couple Spider-Men come from a universe where other heroes exist. So I think that's just important to know of like, I think it is interesting. How does a city kind of fall, like you were saying, Chris, when there's like no Batman to protect it like Gotham? Right. But in reality, if this was fully saturated like some of the other superhero universes we're used to, like I think probably like Daredevil or something maybe would pick up some slack depending on where they're at exactly. So that's just my other caveat there, is just try to enjoy the Spider-Verse that you're in and not hope for a Spider-Verse that could possibly be.
Yeah, I think one of the other cool parts, and this ties together, it really got me going early on. The first other universe they reveal is the Lego universe, the Spider-Man Lego universe. I'm like, great. I'm like, oh my god, we need this movie. We need Lego Spider-Man the movie like immediately.
And Miguel was like, thanks, Peter. You're our best.
yeah, like you're one of the best. And then, but in this universe and every other universe, guess what? J.K. Simmons is voicing J. Jonah Jameson in every universe, and I love that. Like I love it so much that he is so iconic. He permeated all the universes himself because we couldn't find a better person to do J. Jonah Jameson from Sam Raimi's movie, right? Like he is elevated to all these, because we get him in the Lego verse. He's in Miles as like a kind of like a TV shock jock kind of dude. And a couple other places. So I thought that was really, really fun throughout this.
I think that that Lego Spider-Man may have been, because I'm looking through the full cast right here. It could have been Jack Quaid.
No,
who we all
Jack
know from The
Quaid
Boys.
is actually. They confirmed the article this morning. He played the Peter Parker from Earth, from Gwen's Earth, who was the Lizard. He only has a couple lines there, so he was that version of that.
Well, perfect segue, Chris, because that could bring us back to Gwen's kind of opening up the movie. You could say, if you're looking at it in
closing,
like television, if you look at it in like television terms, like she was the cold open in a way. Like after we got her full set piece with the Vulture, we got to see the opening again of the title scene, which was great because our audience got to clap again seeing that. And then you have that kind of like the classic, like the scratching of the record kind of like Spider-Man beat come through after that. That got everybody hyped in the seats in our house. But what a smart idea of like, we have a part one of a movie here, right? We're just going to get Miles' story cranking in here, and it's not going to get resolved. We need some character that's going to go through an arc here so we can say we have a standalone movie in some aspects. And that all came from Gwen. I thought that was great. She starts off, we see that what drives her is that like, and I think sometimes we forget this in films that become so dire, life and death, about survival, is like sometimes a perfect motivator is just being lonely and not having a friend and just being the only one and you can't talk to anybody else. And I thought that was clever that we start with Gwen and then she has this really intense moment with her father where she has to reveal her identity, and then she's left not knowing what to do and just escapes into the multiverse. And we finally get to see her have that cathartic conversation and make up with her father because he's all she has left at the end of the movie. So I'm just glad we got that one solid arc in the film.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the story of like, I honestly think it's her movie. At the end of the day, it doesn't. It's not Miles Morales across Spider-Verse. It's Spider-Man across. And I think this is her movie through and through. It starts with her. It ends with her. Like she, they are hiding things from Miles, right? Like he is the anomaly. He is the reason. Like everything will crash and burn and everyone will die. But nobody tells them that. They're going to keep him there because there are what's called the canon events. The canon events are things that happen in Spider-Man lives that have to happen to drive that character forward, right? Essentially, Uncle Ben has to die in every universe, and that they bring up. They even show Spider-Man 1's Uncle Ben dying several times there. But Miles' dad has to die, and we saw that in the video game, right? Spider-Man 1 for PS4. In the comic books, his mom died the other way. Like when he started, Carnage actually came through, I believe, or Venom. One of the two came through and killed his mom in the Ultimate Universe originally. So, every Spider-Man, they have a tragic story, a tragic beginning, but, like, he's like, oh, I can fix this, I can go save this, and, like, no, we don't want you to, right? If you do this, it'll all collapse, and everyone's trying to keep him there and train him, but, like, at the end of the day, like, I think Peter kind of ends where Gwen started, right? Like, I have nobody, I can't talk to anybody about this, I'm alone, lost in a different universe because he thinks everyone's out to get him. So the end of that showing Gwen, she's like, I'm getting the people. I have my own wristband that can take me to all these universes. I'm gonna go get my friends that I know to go help. Is a great ending to also kickstart the next movie, which will be, I believe, a better duo movie of her and his stories along the way.
Yeah.
So
I would love to know what different people's experiences were like in the theater watching this movie, if they did or didn't know that there was supposed to be a third movie, because I knew that there was going to be a part two. I want to keep on saying part two, but technically this is part two.
Yeah.
So I knew that there was going to. Yes, I knew there was going to be a subsequent movie coming out next year, so we wouldn't have to wait too long. So I was expecting, a cliffhanger ending. But man, the end of the third act or fourth act, however this movie was structured, the last 20 minutes of this movie, I felt like at any given point in time, the movie was going to cut to black to credits, right? Because they had all of this like musical swelling during these intense scenes of ending. Like, oh, is the movie going to end when Gwen hugs her dad and jumps through the portal? Oh, is the movie going to end when we, see the shot of her and the bandmates? Is the movie going to end when Peter realizes he's not in the right universe? So like, I was getting a little bit of whiplash there. But I just kept reminding myself that like they have designed a full narrative here, and this is one of the few times where like, you know, splitting a movie in two is not just to make more money, right? You know, this ain't a Hunger Games type of situation where we're just trying to crank out a second film. So yeah, it was a little intense. I told we took a friend with us to the theater, and I reminded everybody in the car on the way there that this movie was going to be in two parts, and I think he forgot possibly towards the end, and then when it happened, he's like, "Oh crap, I forgot this was going to be in two parts," or he realized once the movie started coming to a close and like, oh, how are they going to wrap this thing up? So it'll be a different experience, because I did hear some groans, not like groans of like, oh, this movie was bad, but I heard audible groans in the audience of just like, oh man, we have to wait. So
very much the same as like a lot of the, not the intensity of Infinity War, right? But like you're left wanting more because your journey there is so good, and you're like, I don't want to quit. This is so fun. I did forget. I have this pulled up here. Scarlet Spider was in this more than I thought he would. Right, as one of 29's, and that was voiced by Andy Samberg. By the way, a lot of people were like, "That was Andy Samberg." I'm like, "Yes, it was."
Yeah,
so
he
did a good job.
The Scarlet Spider, Ben Reilly, but you know. One thing, and this is just a nitpick, right? Obviously, I had a great time watching this movie, but the linchpin that like Miguel says when his AI does the whole like, you know, presentation, right, of what they're doing and why they're doing it, is that like everything is like linchpinned on these like intense moments, right? And he seemed to divide all of the spider powered people into two categories. You either have an Uncle Ben or you have a captain in your life, right? And one of those people, they're gonna be dying, right? But then at the same time, I look over at Ben Reilly and I was like, this story ain't nothing like that. He's a clone. Like there's nothing going on there. He has no parents. What is he doing in the mix?
Because he was when they unveiled he was the clone, he would have had the Uncle Ben moment in him. Just, you know, we would have had two of the same Peter Parkers. Like he had the memories and stuff like that.
I guess theoretically, yeah. But yeah, some of the spider people that you just look out into the sea, like I feel like they're not fitting that mold. But like I get what they're saying, right? You got to have that intense event, right? But like. The moviegoer in me is just like, hell yeah, Miles. Yeah. We don't let people die. He's not falling for this nonsense. Right. I do feel like the audience is being duped intentionally, right? Information is being left behind. Like even though we saw a flashback of like Miguel's like bootleg universe vanishing. And I don't know if he genuinely thinks it's because of him, because he was there for too long and he wasn't supposed to be, or if he knows something else happened, so he's using that story to manipulate everybody else. But something is being left out. There's a key bit of information that we're going to find out that, like, I mean, if they really wanted to tie this into the whole multiversal incursion MCU stuff, maybe it was just a circumstantial or coincidental.
Well, yeah.
You know, Miguel was just living in this world, and then I don't know, there's a Doctor Strange in some universe, or a Vision that turned to Ultron in another universe. You know, and he was just collateral, and he thought it was him, and it was somebody else.
Well, yeah, and the fact that Miles has been Spider-Man for a year, right? Nothing's happened to that universe, right? Like. Tells me that there is something. It's not as simple as what he thinks it is, right? Like Miles, you know, he exists, and his universe hasn't destroyed itself for no reason. All of a sudden, it was, you know, a bad guy who happened to just have a little more information than he should have had at the end of the day. So
it is kind of nice watching, you know, an animated movie, which some could construe as like, you know, a kid's movie in a way, but I do feel like I have a little bit of safety in the sense of like, I don't think his parents are going to die, because they wouldn't do that to me. They wouldn't do that to to this audience that is just here for like hope and inspiration. Like we don't need to see any of Miles's parents bite the bullet. So I don't think that'll happen, but I'll definitely look out for it. I'll be worried.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if I don't know. Do you think he's gonna turn Earth 42's Miles the Prowler to help him?
Yeah,
because he asked, he's like, "Is your dad still alive?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's like,
Yeah,
that was
I
a very
think so.
pointed question. For
it's
that.
definitely going to be rough, right? I mean, you can already I feel like I already see like the story like painted on the wall, right? Of like Miles Prowler is just like you stole my life and mad about it, and it's just like I didn't mean to do it, but I'm
Miles
here
Prowler
to help.
is still from Sonic, but I'm not...
You know what I'm saying, damn it.
Yeah.
So like, but yeah, I think it'll be like I could see maybe that if they really want to get tragic in some point of view, I could see maybe that version of Miles maybe dying, but like maybe a sacrificial play to like actually save somebody. So like, oh, he actually was good the whole time. He was just led down the wrong path.
And it was on that note, I think it's fun that this universe offers Mahershala Ali a chance to return as Uncle Aaron. Is Aaron? No.
Yeah,
Uncle
You're
Aaron.
right.
So like, they're like the best part of the multiverse is like no character, even if they're truly gone, they can still come back and do their voices right for this multiverse. So I think that was cool. But yeah, I honestly have I have a vague idea of where this is going to go. Right, we've all read multiverse comic books. We're in the multiverse of the MCU right now. Like we're all primed for multiversal events. But at the same time, I don't know where this is going to go, and I'm very excited to kind of figure it out.
Yeah, and speaking of the ending too, like it seems to be pitched out there in the universe, right, that this next film is going to be closing the story up, right? So, but there's been rumors, if you listen and subscribe, plug to our normal weekly news episodes, whenever we get rumors or leaks or tidbits, right, that there was supposed to be maybe an animated offshoot of this, or maybe there'd be like a spin-off, if Gwen was going to get her own, story in some aspect, which seemed to happen in this movie, right? So it's just hard for me to believe that when March rolls around next year and we get Beyond the Spider-Verse, that it's going to be the last time we see all of this hard work, right? Even though that would be great, right? Give us a solid trilogy that we can put in a box set, put on our shelves, and be proud of, right? But it's hard to imagine Sony letting that go. So do they, maybe try to take a new type of character? Well, who this would be interesting, right? If Sony likes to lend, Spider-Man to the MCU, what if it went the other way around, right? What if Disney was just like, hey, want to make an awesome animated movie of I don't know, Captain America or something like that, Steve Rogers, that's big, pie in the sky thing. But they've obviously proved that Sony, we can do these animated movies, and Disney, you can do these live action movies. So maybe we start, cross-pollinating a little bit more. That would be cool.
I just hope this doesn't send the wrong information to Sony and the producers, right? Like, hey, everyone liked all the Spider-Man, so let's start spinning these into live action things, and we all get screwed over by low quality live action Spider-Man stuff, right? And we'll talk about that in the notes as well. But I'm gonna look forward to 3, and if they end up announcing more, that'd be great. But I just want to know, at the end of the day, obviously there's this love story here for Miles and Gwen, right? It's very, very transparent, even from the first movie. They live in different universes with different things. Is this going to end where they're trapped in their own universes? Are they going to trapped in one universe together, or will universes merge together? How will this end out so both of them win or have a happy ending, right, at the end of the day? And I don't know if that's possible, and that makes me very excited to learn more about how they're going to wrap these up. And
we'll find out.
Get there.
Yeah, what a great movie, great time. I can't wait to kind of review it more in earnest when we get part 2, because I just had a great time, man. This is awesome. I'm so happy we have this movie. It just feels like it's so much like my DNA, right? That's what I said when we talked about the first film. Just like the music, the feeling, the vibes, Spider-Man in general, which is always amazing.
And again, written by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, right? So obviously, if they wrote the first one and directed it, I believe they're writing this one. They didn't direct it. 3 directors, they all did great jobs. But the next one, if they're writing the next one, Beyond the Spider-Verse, I have full faith that we will get a very solid ending and a very solid journey along the way. Right? So overall, very happy. 2 good movies in a row, Mike. Are we setting ourselves up for failure this summer, by putting the good ones at the front, or what? So.
Yes. Stay tuned. Subscribed. I believe our next review is probably going to be for The Flash, because I can't imagine I get myself out to the theater to watch Transformers. But if you listen to our weekly news episodes, I'm sure we'll get kind of like a light review from Chris on that next Transformers movie.
I am so excited to watch it without any obligations, Mike. You have no idea. Because I think I'm just going to add, the last thing I'm going to add to this, at the end of the day, we are fans first before we are movie reviewers. And we are huge fans of this movie, so in this franchise. So keep it up, Sony. You know you can do it for once. But that is our episode review. We got to head over into our weekly show where we talk about all the other news going on in the superhero world. But people want to know more about that. Where can they find that information at?
Oh, all you got to do is visit superheroslate.com. That is the best avenue to find everywhere we host a show, and to get our awesome show notes if you listen to our weekly news episodes, and check out our upcoming release calendar. It's the best place to find where we're going to be talking about our next movie. Like I said before, I'm pretty sure it's going to be The Flash, so we got an awesome release calendar there. No annoying pop-ups, no banner ads, none of that. It's just a tool that we built for ourselves that we wanted to give to our listeners as well. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and wherever else you love to listen to fine podcasts. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you can get merch at superheroslate.com/store. Chris, if people want to follow you, where do you think they could find you at?
You can find me on Twitter, Valdan, VALDAN, or Instagram, Valdan87, because I did this out of order, because I have both show notes for the news and the movie. I read them in the wrong order. But yeah, people know about you. Where can they find all that good stuff at, buddy?
Well, they can find me at Mike Royer Design on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. You can read my webcomic at liferewardsrisk.com. You can check that out. I try to publish every week if I can. And if you're a super fan of the show, we love our super fans. And all you have to do to be a super fan is you don't have to join some sort of spider cult where you're going around letting adults and parents and children die.
You have to have a parent or an uncle die. That's our rules.
No, all you have to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we will be here every week, folks.
That's right. We'll catch you guys next week.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.